I think young people are starting to wake up to that though.
Oh, good.
Over the years, the podcast and interviews and social media has been dominated by right-wing people, pretty much.
And
And
this is,
I think as long as it's reasonable, it's a good thing.
as long as it's reasonable, and this is always the thing, I'm afraid, and this is a problem I have with Nigel Farage. I can see why young people are going to reform because they need hope and they need change and they need something different. And if they're young, I dare say, if people are in their 20s, they won't remember the Labour government pre 2010. So we get the blame for everything. Um, but unfortunately, with Nigel Farage and others, they indulge in what I call the curse of easy answers. Everything's because the Tories didn't try hard enough. I actually had to
Yeah.
endure a speech. I was speaking after Nigel Farage at a conference, so I had to listen to him. And everything was, it's a problem because the Tories didn't try. And that is childish. Of course, we've tried to solve the problems. They're hard problems. Now, we could have done things differently. We could have had more support from other political parties and the public, but you know, things are not merely a matter of will. And Nigel's popular because he tells people that everything would be easy and quick to solve. Well, if he's
Yeah.
ever Prime Minister, they're going to be very, very disappointed because I know what we need to do. I've got a big book just out of camera shot that tells us what we need to do, written by a friend of mine. And it's going to be difficult, painful, and take 15 years.
Uh, with Nigel Farage, I think it's people see this part of him with when he says, um, things are not going well, so I will fix it. But I never actually heard him talking at length on how would he fix it.
Well, I listened to,
Apart from limiting immigration to ridiculous numbers, apart from deporting everyone, which in my simplistic view, deporting people takes a lot of money, and it's pretty hard to find that amount of money for him to deport that much people. So, for example, when Rishi Sunak was planning to deport people on boats to Rwanda, I think it was, they had to give people money, they had to give people food, and it's not just sending people somewhere.
yeah, human beings have to be treated decently, come what may. But Nigel, I listened to a speech by Nigel recently, and I agreed with him when he was saying about, the obligations of the state are too high and we can't afford all this government, it's holding us back. And I'm saying, yes, yes, yes. And then his answer was, and that's why we need to shut down immigration. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's true that we need to reduce immigration. There isn't public consent for these levels, and certainly illegal migration. We should do the things we need to do to save lives and to shut down illegal migration. But it won't balance the books, and that's the problem with Nigel, is he was letting people believe that shutting down immigration would balance the books. He was blaming migrants for our fiscal problems, and that's just wrong. And it's not only wrong, it's dangerous because migrants don't deserve the blame for our fiscal problems. The blame for our fiscal problems basically lies at the door of socialist MPs of all parties who've made expensive promises to older people, which we now can't afford, not least because of our stupid energy and other policies and over-regulating the economy, which mean we don't produce enough, haven't grown fast enough, and therefore can't meet those promises. Into all of that comes Nigel Farage, very popular, full of easy answers, all superficially attractive. But what he actually says is we need to stop migration as if that was the answer to all the problems. And it's simplistic, it's foolish, it's wrong, it's misleading. And this is why I don't work with him. This is why I'm not going to reform. And I'm afraid it's always been the same. Socialism fails, and then people turn to populists, and then it all goes terribly wrong. Now, I think we can still save the situation, but the route to saving that situation is the Conservative Party getting its backside into gear and doing proper free market things.
What do you think is the reason he only suggests limiting migration as a solution?
He likes
Is
being
he
popular.
that's the only reason? Does he
I,
actually know other plans he's gonna have to make
I
in
don't
the
want this
government?
podcast to be too newsworthy, Vladimir. I would like you to get a good hit out of it, but I don't want to say anything too wild about Nigel Farage. I've met him a couple of times. In many ways, I like him. I'm told that he and I often agree on most things, but when I listen to him, he's not saying what I need to hear from him. I would want to hear from him, if he wants to be Prime Minister, that he's going to balance the books by dealing with the issue of unfunded pensions, which are many trillions of pounds of liabilities far beyond the national debt. And until Nigel's willing to say he's going to cut the winter fuel payment from well-off pensioners, that yes, pensioners will have to pay income tax, that the triple lock can't go on, that public sector pensions are going to have to go onto a contributory basis, and so on, until he's willing to say those things, which will just stop the problem of unfunded pensions getting any worse, and then say what else he's going to do to deal with the problem. Until he's willing to say that, he's wasting everyone's time.